We are Rogue Media Sports.
Welcome on in. It's the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. We might be calling on Zach at some point in this first segment, by the way, and that was me more telling Zach than anybody else. So he will need to be ready. It is another glorious Wednesday, and we have got all kinds of hot takes to throw at you. All Boston sports related. We're live on YouTube as we are every weekday, high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts. And no, I did not have to rush out right before the show started to move my car, which has been sitting in the same spot for 2 weeks because they're about to do street cleaning, and I need to move it once a month. And I just remembered 5 minutes before the show so that I didn't get towed. That definitely did not happen, so don't look that up. But let's start with the Celtics. We'll talk Celtics. We'll talk Red Sox and their implosion. And then we'll talk a little more baseball. Pete Rose, now eligible for the Baseball Hall of Fame. Kind of don't love that. It's all coming up on this episode of The Cam Show. With the Celtics, though, we've gone from dynasty window to they should probably tank next season in the matter of hours in the Boston sports scene, with the Celtics going down in Game 4 to the Knicks, 3-1. That series over. And Jayson Tatum, more importantly, going down with a torn Achilles. The team announced that yesterday officially, and he's going to be out for all of next year. Let's be realistic here. Okay, he's going to be out for the entirety of the 2025-2026 season. And now that throws a ton into flux here for the Celtics. They were going to need to shed some salary anyway, but now they have a different game they need to play because their best player, their top 5 player in the league, is not going to be available next year. Do you continue to roll with this core and as you can and have Jaylen Brown be option 1A with Derek White and Al Horford and Peyton Pritchard and let the chips fall as they may? Because that could well still be a playoff team in the East, right? Like that team is no worse than the Orlando Magic. So they're still probably making the playoffs, but you're in that in between nobody wants to be in, where you're barely treading water, you're 500 or above 500, you're not getting a good draft pick, and likely with that scenario, you'll be faced with some more salary questions the next year when Jayson Tatum does come back. This is coming from the Chris Forsberg article on NBC Sports Boston. He breaks down the cost here. Celtics are already committed to $228 million in contracts next year. $20 million over the second apron. And that's before Al Horford and Luke Cornett go to market, as they will be doing this summer. So that's projected to be a $238 million luxury tax bill, which would push them to closer to $500 million total spend if the roster was maintained with all those penalties that come with it. You know, Porzingis is probably a dead man walking at $31 million next year. Unfortunately, it's probably the same for Drew Holiday. I say unfortunately because he would be a terrific piece on a championship contending team. Next year, they're not going to be that. $32.5 million. White's salary goes up to 28, and that's $200 million right there. So now the Celtics need to get bold. And I'm already kind of in on the idea of punt next season. Next season, you're not going to do anything anyway. Jaylen Brown's not going to lead you to a championship as the number 1 player, despite what some of these Celtics fans and NBA fans might think. He's not that guy. He's not. And when you subtract a top 5 player in the NBA from your lineup for the entire year, you're not going to be good or as good, nearly as good, right? And so that then begs the question, should the Celtics trade Jaylen Brown? Not going anywhere next year. You're basically having to go through, let's call it a retool when Tatum does come back. It's not going to be the same team that he left that was championship form, right? It's going to be a new cast around him, whether it's 3 guys or 10 guys that are new. It's going to be a new cast. And what is the easiest way for the Celtics to shed a ton of salary and also get building blocks for their future to help build around Jayson Tatum round 2. That's trading Jaylen Brown. And this is not to say like, oh man, like he was so awful in that game 4. He sucked in this postseason. You need to trade him. Because I agree, he has sucked in this postseason, but that's not the reason you trade him. You trade him because he's got a ton of value, not because he sucks. And there are teams that are willing to throw out their premium draft picks for a guy like Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I'm going to give you a guy who's also an all-NBA player, not quite the level of Giannis, but also an all-NBA player, a finals MVP, and he's younger with less of an injury history. Why would you turn that down? So that brings in the Rockets, that brings in the Spurs, these teams that have a bunch of young assets and still have good draft picks. In the case of the Spurs, 2 great draft picks. The Rockets being a 2 seed and having a top 10 pick, like that becomes really attractive for a team like the Celtics. Now that's 2 of the Texas teams. Why don't we complete the triangle here? The Dallas Mavericks suddenly find themselves with the number 1 pick in the draft. I think you'd be stupid to not use the pick and pick Cooper Flagg as a generational player for the next generation of the NBA. But Nico Harrison has already proven that he doesn't necessarily care about that, okay? He traded away a top 3 player in the NBA for pennies on the dollar just a few months ago for a win-now scenario, which all it won them was the number 1 pick. Conspiracy alert. Check out the video on the channel about that. But you've got a team led by Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis and PJ Washington. Cooper Flagg is going to be a championship level player in the NBA 5 years from now. If you're the Mavericks and you're in this win now mode and you've got a dummy in the front office like Nico Harrison, I don't think it's crazy at all that they trade that pick for someone like Jaylen Brown. And some future considerations as well. They'll get some draft capital out of it. I don't know how great it will be from the Celtics side other than next year. But if I'm the Celtics and you say, hey, here's the scenario. You got to shed a ton of contracts here. You got to shed a ton of money. Okay? And when Jayson Tatum comes back, I think he's going to be a good player. Still an elite player, but not quite at the level that he was before. He'll still have some prime years left. But that's probably accelerated because, he has a major injury that he's coming off of right now. And you can keep this Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown thing. You're going to be tied up into that money the whole time, and you are not going to be able to build a championship roster alongside those guys in the time that they're still within their prime. And I'm going to extend their prime to like 32, 33 years old because they have a limited injury history. And then the other option is, you can get the generational guy. You can get the number 1 pick in the draft. And even though he's the number 1 pick, he's still going to be pretty cheap for you for the first couple of years. He's not going to be a max player for whatever it is in the NBA, 4 or 5 years. And then you can build a championship team around that. You can get some guys like a Kristaps Porzingis or a Drew Holiday type at that kind of money when you're building around 1.5 max guys rather than 2 max guys. And then you've got your next guy. Then you've got Tatum possibly being a guy on championship teams going into his mid-30s because he's got Cooper Flagg there as the franchise player. And if you're the Mavericks, again, I think it's better for the Mavericks to just draft Cooper Flagg. But if you're the Mavericks, then you're really selling your franchise and your fan base on win now. Now we've got a real big 3 and a guy who is, Lord knows, in Dallas, they know that Jaylen Brown can play at a championship level. You won an NBA Finals MVP against them, and now you can add him to your team, have this big 3, and have a team that would be better than the Celtics. And you'll get a pretty good pick from them the next year, which is a better draft class next year. Everyone's already saying it. Of course, those kids are graduating high school right now that are being in the draft, that are being picked in the draft next year. But you still kind of get, it's a win-win for both teams in a weird way. Because even if the Celtics get Cooper Flagg and That's still a top 5 pick team. Cooper Flagg, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, like Luke Cornett. That's what your team is. That's what your team looks like. You're still getting rid of Porzingis and or a Drew Holiday. And who knows if Al Horford wants to stick around for that kind of process, right? I think it's nuts, but it's not as crazy as some people might think. And I know the Mavs have already come out and said, hey, we're not trading this pick. That's coming from sources within the Mavs organization. Of course, they're going to say that. They're not going to say on May 13th or 14th that, yeah, we're going to trade the pick. Yeah, we don't want it. We're going to trade it. But there's already been some smoke around this fire that they are willing to look into something like a Giannis Antetokounmpo deal. And again, Giannis is a better player than Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen's still pretty elite, and he's younger than Giannis. He's 2-3 years younger. He doesn't have much of an injury history. In fact, whatever he's going through right now is probably the worst injury he's had. He had the wrist surgery or hand surgery in 2021, but this is probably the worst injury he's had. And you talk about a two-way player who the Mavericks have seen can play at a championship level. Mavericks trade the number 1 overall pick to the Boston Celtics for Jaylen Brown, next year's first-round pick, and that's probably it. And the Celtics continue on with this legacy. They pass the torch from Jaylen Brown to Cooper Flagg, the main kid, a maniac who grew up rooting for the Boston Celtics. It's storybook. It's so storybook for the NBA that Adam Silver might actually consider letting this happen, even though his grand conspiracy was to get the Mavs the number 1 pick. He'll say, you know what? I guess it was worth it to get Jaylen Brown. Yeah, sure. Dallas, go ahead. Do it. And I wouldn't put anything past Nico Harrison. I mean, we're talking about one of the dumbest GMs in the league. Brad Stevens is probably the best GM in the league. You don't think Brad Stevens can talk him into this? I think he can. And I think the Celtics will really start to explore those options. They've already made it known they're going to have to make some big trades here to shed some salary. This could be the absolute best of both worlds. You'd give up next year's pick, but who cares? You got the number 1 pick. You got Cooper Flagg. I don't think there's going to be anybody available at 3 or 4 or 5 next year that is better than Cooper Flagg. Or even 2, or maybe even 1 that's better than Cooper Flagg. Either way, man, if you get the number 1 pick this year or next year, you're picking a New England kid. Cooper Flagg from Maine, AJ DeBonsa from Brockton, Massachusetts. It would shock a ton of people. It would be a bombshell around the league. But I don't think it's that crazy to think that the Celtics would trade the NBA Finals MVP from last year, Jaylen Brown, for the number 1 pick of the draft and get Cooper Flagg. If you're the Celtics, would you do that? I would do that in a second. And I love Jaylen Brown, but I would do that in a second for how the pay structure is going to work and all of that. No doubt, man. Let's do it. Take on some of Brown's salary. Whatever. Do it. Do it. I'm in. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is that too crazy even for the NBA? I would argue that trading Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis would have fallen in the same boat. But let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It is completely free. It helps me keep my job and helps us on the path towards 4,000 subscribers. Check out the other videos going out on the YouTube channel. And of course, find us wherever you find your podcasts as well. I'm Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air 5 days a week, live on YouTube at high noon Eastern time, and then wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up next, there's only one team in this city that at this moment, somehow this week, is a bigger train wreck than the Boston Celtics. What in the hell are we getting out of this Red Sox team? That's coming up next on The Cam Show.
We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
At Open Goal USA, we're revolutionizing training for both soccer and lacrosse with our innovative portable rebounders. Perfect for players of all ages and skill levels, our rebounders improve accuracy, control, and technique in both sports. Built with premium materials for durability and ease of use, they're ideal for training anywhere, anytime. Whether you're perfecting your soccer game or sharpening your lacrosse skills, Open Goal USA has you covered. Visit OpenGoAAALUSA.com and elevate your training today.
Relax with Hemp Delicious. Organically grown hemp, massively blended with delicious organic herbs, responsibly sourced for their holistic benefits. Each sip offers calming, antioxidant-rich wellness. Brewed just for you. Sip the calm with Hemp Delicious. Find your blend at hempdelicious.com.
Introducing Muck Off's classic pink bike cleaner, powered by revolutionary nanotechnology that breaks down dirt and grime on a microscopic level while protecting your bike's delicate finish. Developed by our mad developer Alex and tested by riders, our products are made by riders for riders. Discover more at us.muc-off.com, where we break the mold to bring you the best in bike care.
Visit roguemediamusic.com for more music.
Are you ready to take control of your health? At 4U Health, we believe wellness and lab testing should be accessible, inclusive, and yes, fun. With our tech-powered at-home lab test, you save time and money while feeling your best. Say goodbye to long waits and office visits. Check your health on your own terms with 4U Health. Visit 4uhealth.com today and free yourself from traditional medicine. That's the number 4uhealth.com.
And now, back to our show.
Back to the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. I'm your host, Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. We are live on YouTube just as we are 5 days a week, and then we're available wherever you get your podcasts as well. We talk Celtics, the potential Jaylen Brown for Cooper Flag trade. I am all in on that. All in on that. Let's restart this thing. You're going to suck next year anyway. At least you'll have Cooper Flag. Like, Jaylen Brown is good, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I would rather it comes down to this. Being the meddling team, it's so useless in the NBA, being the meddling team, which you'd probably be with Jaylen Brown as your number one guy. Like, you'd still be a playoff team. You'd still be good. You'd get one round of playoffs. But I would rather be a bad team that doesn't make the playoffs and has Cooper Flag with Jayson Tatum coming back the next season than the former. Like, I just would. And I think that long term for the next 4 or 5 years, that the latter would really help the Celtics. The Red Sox need some help, man. This Red Sox team, it stinks. Back to 500 again at 22-22. I couldn't even believe how they lost this game to Detroit. Christian Campbell hits a 2-run homer in the 11th to take a 2-run lead. You have two guys on, one of them being the ghost runner. And Javier Baez is the winning run. He's at the plate. The only way he can beat you is with a 3-run homer. Javier Baez will swing at literally fucking anything. Anything. He's the least selective hitter in like the history of baseball. He will swing at anything within the same zip code as home plate. Greg Weissert out there for a second inning of work with Liam Hendricks sitting out there in the bullpen. Gives him an absolute fucking meatball, 3-run homer to that stiff, and the Red Sox blow another one. They have no backbone and show nothing to say that they're a playoff team. Their last 1-run win was on April 19th. 3 weeks, man. It's almost a month, actually. April 19th. Since then, they are 0-7 in 1-run games. They have the most 1-run losses in the league. That is the mark of a team that is not going to be able to get it done. If you can't win close games, you're not going to make the postseason. Like, forget a World Series or winning a round. Like, you're not making the postseason at all if you can't win 1-run games. And the Red Sox have proven time and time again, they cannot win 1-run games. And I've said this before about this team. We're getting close to Memorial Day, which is usually the first kind of measuring stick, I would say, in the baseball season. But we're also more than a quarter of the way through. So I would say that's a kind of a landmark point as well. And a quarter of the way through the season, they're 22-22. They're pure mid. And that's flattering because most of the time they look bad. And just when you think they're turning a corner, they take a series against the hottest team in baseball, the Kansas City Royals. You blow it in back-to-back games against Detroit. A good team, but still, come on. Have some pride. And the thing that gets me is you're talking about a 22-22 team this year that finished 81-81 last year. And the proof is all there. Sometimes not all 81s and 81s are created equal. This looks like an 81-81 team. They look like last year's team. Casas out for the year. Defense, bad. Base running, better in stolen bases, but still not making great decisions on the base pass. Hitting with runners in scoring position, putrid, awful, horrendous, worst in the league. You've still got major holes in your infield. What has changed? Oh, yeah, and you don't get consistent starting pitching, and worse than that, your bullpen is awful. Awful outside of Chapman. The 37-year-old serial wife beater is the best guy you've got out in that bullpen. And it just kind of keeps going from bad to worse for this Red Sox team. Last night, this is from Tom Caron. Last night, the Red Sox struck out 7 times with runners in scoring position. They've struck out 122 times with runners in scoring position this season. That is not only tops in MLB, but 12 strikeouts more than the next worst team in that category. You want to talk about an approach. They can't even put the ball in play. I mean, we were talking about this after the first series of the season, and it's the middle of May, and that's not changed. I know, pitching is there before hitting is. It's the middle of fucking May, and they still can't put the ball in play when they have guys on base. They can't even make productive outs. At some point, how do you stop just being all right, let's just keep doing this. Let's just keep doing it. Pete Fatsi, he's been so great for us in the past. He's really elevated our hitting in the past. How does he still have a job? I'm sorry. How? How does that guy have a fucking job? It's not just that they're not getting the big hit. They're not getting the big put the ball in play, get a sacrifice fly, hit a fucking ground ball to the right side of the infield. They can't do that. They can't advance runners. They can't put the ball in play. I mean, seriously, man, it's like watching your worst high school team just swinging at everything and can't even put the ball in play. And yet Pete Fatsy's still got a job. Alex Cora still has a job, because this is where I'm starting to wonder. Alex Cora has that great stacked team in 2018. They win the World Series. 2021 is really probably his best managerial job to get them to the ALCS. Other than that, they missed the playoffs every year. They had a losing record in 3 of those years. They finished in last place 3 of those years. What is the excuse now? His teams, they don't hit with guys in scoring position. They don't field well. They don't have focus. They don't have good baseball IQ. And there's always drama. How much more of a pass are we giving Alex Cora? This is ridiculous. And I'll tell you, in a couple of different ways, the 2004 Red Sox have ruined our perception. I wouldn't trade it for anything. This is not me complaining about the 04 Red Sox, right? But first and foremost, you're never going to get a playoff run like that again. The team is never going to matter to the city as much as it did at that time ever again. Whatever. But the other thing is, that team was hovering around 500 until the All-Star break or so. And then they really turned it on and turned it around and won the World Series. The second half, they completely turned things around. That happens once a generation for a team. Once maybe every 30, 40 years, they have a season like that. You know, the amazing Mets and the 04 Red Sox, that doesn't happen all the time. So there will be people that will watch this continue. And if they're 500 in the middle of July, they'll say, oh, well, the 04 team did it. This isn't that, man. You've got to start figuring this out way the hell before the All-Star break. Way the hell before that. And it starts with your rotation. It's not just your bullpen, but Tanner Houck, good Lord, have mercy on that young man. This is something that Alex Cora, once again, has never really put together a great pitching staff. There's always been problems over usage of them, not having them ready to start a season. And Tanner Houck has been on a slippery slope since he made the All-Star game last year. Since July of last year, 10 months, they haven't been able to get this kid right after being an All-Star. And this game he had on Monday was Just horrible, man. He had like the worst game score of any Red Sox pitcher in the last 60 years in a start in the middle of April. It was actually 4 weeks to the day before this last start. And this one might have been even worse. 2 1/3 innings, 11 earned runs. Gave up 2 home runs, which is, more than he struck out. That's just terrible. He didn't strike out a single guy. Tanner Houck, that wipeout stuff. Couldn't do that. It's just like, how does this keep getting worse? How does this keep getting worse for him? By the way, Tanner Houck is the first pitcher in MLB history to allow 11-plus runs in a start of fewer than 3 innings pitched twice in the same season. He did it in the span of 4 weeks. He did it twice in 28 days. Like, record levels of futility here. And the poor kid, man, he's like practically crying in the dugout. And after the game, he's saying, I've never been in a spot like this. I've never been so lost. Nothing is working. With all that we know about mental health in sports, like, can we put the kid on the shelf? Give him some time to collect his thoughts. He's just been battered and battered and battered for the last 10 months. He can't get out of his own way. Like, just keep giving Hunter Dobbins the starts. Give him Tanner Houck starts here. Giolito looked fine his last time out. But there are so many goddamn questions on this Red Sox team that I'm getting genuinely sick of it. It's the same thing we watched all of last year, even with all this money that they splashed in the offseason. And the trade, Crochet, and then bringing in Bregman, and then, extending, calling up a guy and extending him like Christian Campbell. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. We're just spinning wheels here. And this city is not going to stand for it much longer, because guess what? The Celtics are in tank mode. The Bruins are fucking awful. The Patriots are the worst franchise in the league right now. And here's the Red Sox golden opportunity, and they're just pissing it away. And I'll tell you, I don't know who brought it up. Someone brought it up in the greater Boston sports media, but like, Alex Bregman had a pretty good deal on the table with the Tigers, and they thought they were really going to get Bregman. And he picks the Red Sox, which is a better deal, but he's got an opt-out after 1 year. That Tigers team, I mean, they're as good as just about anybody in the American League, in a weak American League. You don't think Alex Bregman's having second thoughts about that? Yeah, my numbers are pretty good at Fenway right now. It's a little short porch to left, unlike Comerica. But I can get paid a lot of money there too, and we can win some baseball games. I don't know if I could win baseball games here. And I don't know if I could deal with this clubhouse shit anymore. We had a cheating scandal in Houston, and the locker room was more united than when Rafi Devers is in for the Red Sox. What needs to change? Please let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe. It's free. Helps me keep my job. Helps us towards 4,000 subscribers. We're talking nothing but Boston sports 5 days a week, live on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcasts. So check out the other videos on the channel and join us every weekday. I'm Cam Stewart. Zach Burke keeps us on the air. Coming up, Pete Souza of the Pete Souza Show is going to help me react to some bombshell news in Major League Baseball. Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, the door is open for you now. Is that a good thing? That's coming up next on The Cam Show.
We'll be right back after these quick words from our sponsors. This is Rogue Media Network.
I don't know, if Bubble wasn't here, I don't know what people would be doing, like making PowerPoints or something. Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
And now, back to our show.
Welcome back. It is the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. We bring in Pete Souza, Philly guy. His mic is muted. And his guy, Rick Tocchet, has just been hired back by the Flyers. I mean, hired back. He was a player. Jack Tatum is one of the biggest pieces of shit ever to walk the earth. So that's a good shirt for Pete, because we're going to be talking about pieces of shit today, because Pete Rose is now eligible for the Hall of Fame. Can we get Pete's mic? Do we know that Pete's mic
5,
is
4,
not
3, 2,
there?
1.
We go. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. He's still like yelling shit back there and it's muted.
No, I was just
that's
letting you
probably for the
carry it.
best.
I was literally no sounds.
Okay.
Did not
Okay.
emote once.
Okay. Pete, I want to talk about Pete Rose, but first,
Yeah.
I want to allow a lot of time for that. So let's real quick talk about this. I finished not unguarded, Shooting Guards.
Yes.
The Netflix thing, Gilbert Arenas, Javaris Crittenden. I have some, what were your thoughts on that? You watched it before me.
My thoughts on it were, and honestly, I'm not going to be like I lived it, but like that's when I was working in the NBA. When Gil Arenas was like scoring 40 a night, yelling hibachi, and like the Wizards were really like they climaxed. I mean, that was like a peak for the Wizards. That's how bad they've been, by the way.
Yeah.
But that was like an awesome time for them. And my thoughts were I was disappointed because I knew the PR guy a little bit for the Wizards, Zach Bono, and he was such a sweet guy. He's, I think, at Maryland now. But he loved Gilbert. And, Eddie Jordan was their coach, and they seemed like a lot of fun. And then this did not seem like fun at all. Gilbert Arenas is the kind of guy, like, there's no way I could work with him. I don't think he'd be my friend. And I think he has, like, some mental health stuff. I mean, that's not the way he acted. I was literally watching that, and I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, this isn't normal. I literally started to be like, no, I think, like, you know how you see when crazy is right in front of you? Usually, like, kind of late to catch on because it's actually in you, in your world.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I was watching the documentary. By the end, I was like, wait a minute, I think this is what crazy looks like.
Yeah.
And I don't think Gil Arenas would be a great teammate.
Probably not. And I think that was some of the sentiment around the league as well. Like, he was a goofy guy, and like, he probably is a nice guy, like, especially now, but he's one of those that you're absolutely right. And like, it starts to, like, if you're on that plane when he starts to talk about the guns and threaten with it, you're like, this just isn't going to end well. And Gilbert doesn't have the maturity to stop.
Woody Woodpecker. He's constantly like he took the hazing too far with the young guys. Like, he was just a weirdo, and that's tough when the weirdo is scoring 40 a night.
Yeah.
That makes for a wild situation.
And I will say, this untold kind of thing that the Netflix has had, they've had a lot of misses, okay? They've had some good ones, but they've had a lot of misses. I think this one was somewhere in between, but like with the Steve McNair one, it was like an hour. We didn't get anything answered, and there was it was bizarre. With this one, at the end, like the last 20, 25 minutes of that documentary are fascinating. It goes into Javaris Crittenden committing murder and murdering somebody, and then they talk to the victim's family. And they talk about the victim, and then about how Javaris gets out of prison pretty early in this, and then they're throwing out theories of Dwight Howard's uncle being the DA and all this. It's like, okay, like this is not a blow fest of like, oh, poor Javaris Crittenden, look what happened to his life. There's a little bit of that because there should be, but it's also like, this guy killed somebody. And like, we don't run away from that and you talk to the family.
Dwight Howard, by the way, was like, that's kind of a pretty big deal. Like
yeah,
as a DA, go ahead. Dwight.
I didn't know that. I mean, that's an elected position, man. That's a big deal. Like in Howard County, like that's big. Anyway, Pete Souza joins of the Pete Souza Show. But we're here to talk about another Pete. That's Pete Rose, among many others, now being reinstated by Major League Baseball. Rob Manfred put it out yesterday that basically it's a lifetime ban and these guys have died. So Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson, the rest of the Black Sox players, and a couple other, I think it's a list of 17 guys who have been banned for life by MLB in the Baseball Hall of Fame, are now eligible. They're not being put in just yet. That's going to be somebody else's problem, not Rob Manfred's. That's going to be somebody else's problem to see if these guys get in. Pete, we talked a lot about Pete Rose around the time he died. Your reaction to him being eligible for the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm disappointed that the Menendez boys are going to smell freedom before Pete Rose gets into the Hall of Fame. If he does, they won't vote till December of 27. My reaction was too late. He's dead. But also that was my initial reaction of frustration. But then when you really sit back and I take my Phillies fandom out of it and my, sports mania that can make me view things through a cloudy perspective. He shouldn't have gotten in the first place. He was a real piece of shit. And he was a champion and a winner on the field, but his behavior off of it was deplorable. And here's why I say it's deplorable. Like gambling, yeah, okay, no huge deal. Gambling on your team, like pretty big deal, right?
Massive, yes.
And like I understand the initial banning, but where Pete totally screwed up, it's just like we see in the court of law. Like the cover-up is sometimes worse than the crime itself. And the way that he handled himself in the wake of this magnificent error that he made in judgment, and maybe it was brought on by addiction, which, by the way, can get you a little more grace, okay?
Yep.
No, in the face of all that, he refused to be a human being. He had to be a hard-headed athlete and take the same skills that made him so successful in baseball, and clearly a failure walking around with human beings in life. The stuff, like he continued to deny it, Cam, until his dying day that he bet on the Reds as a player or a manager. And that's been uncovered, dude. ESPN, there's mountains of evidence that show that he bet on the Reds when he was a manager and a player manager. So you check both those boxes. He should, by the way, he'll never get in. I don't think
you don't think so? Okay.
No. I don't think it's the same reason we don't have Barry Bonds is eligible.
Yep,
like he's not in, your boy Clemens, same deal. Like they're not getting in. So why this guy, I think what Pete Rose did was worse than what those guys did. I mean, the betting on your team, like I really don't care. Like you can rationalize it any way you want. If you have a pitcher that you're throwing in game 2 of a series, that you're throwing him extra innings because you bet on your team to win this game, like a middle reliever, a bridge guy, and then tomorrow maybe you can't use him as much because you had
or you're overusing him.
Yeah, that's really, really messed up. And so I think he deserved, to be held accountable, and he completely botched the aftermath, where I think he would have been in the Hall of Fame long ago if he said, yeah, I got a problem with gambling. I got to clean it up. I can't believe what I did. I throw myself upon the mercy of Major League Baseball's court, and would hope I could be allowed back in and do some public speaking. Look at Michael Vick, dude. Like,
it's a good example.
Michael Vick was on. Yeah, I mean, like people kind of like that dude now, and what he did was abhorrent.
Absolutely. I think this thing sucks. Like, maybe it's an old man boomer take. I don't think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. And again, it's left up to other people whether he's actually going to get in. I don't think he should be eligible. And the couple of problems I have with this, first and foremost, like baseball can be hypocritical and it's really old school. But at the end of the day, baseball only asks a few things of you to not do, right? Like baseball has people who have been in prison. They've had non-performance enhancing drug problems. You know, they can be whatever religion they want, whatever creed they want, wherever they want to be from. Like, and that's obviously how it should be. But the things that you can't do performance enhancing drugs, and you can't bet on baseball. You can't be with gamblers when you play baseball. Like, that is the very integrity of not just this sport, but any sport. Like, you can't do that. That's where sports that's screwing a lot of people out of a lot of money and out of a lot of other stuff. Okay. When you infringe upon that. And that's the first thing I hate. Like, I mean, shit, man. Steve Carlton, one of the great pitchers of all time, thinks that a group of 12 Jews runs the entire world. He's in the Hall of Fame. We'll allow that. Okay. It's weird, but we'll allow it. But if you're betting on your team, on or against or on other teams, I don't give a shit. Like, that's where we draw a line. In all facets of life, you've got to draw a line. Josh Hamilton, great story, man. At times, it's taken another downward turn. But, you know, drug problem, alcohol problem, he gets clean, he becomes a star player again. Like, baseball will embrace that. They're not going to embrace you betting on your own team, especially when you're the manager. Like, that's never going to fly. Whether you bet on them or against them, that, as you pointed out, like, there's still no good in that. And who knows how deep this whole thing got. The other thing is this. In the statement by Major League Baseball, they basically said, Pete Rose is dead. Shoeless Joe Jackson is dead. They can't hurt the integrity of the game anymore, which is why they were being suspended. That doesn't make any fucking sense. That's why you thought it was odd, because it makes no sense. First off, that's not what this was for. This is a punishment. This is a punishment for doing something wrong. Okay? I don't know what the comp is for that, but like, it's so weird how baseball is so nostalgic. We still look at the records of Babe Ruth and Hank Aaron, you know, these guys that played 50 and 100 years ago. But now that Pete Rose is dead, we can forget about that he gambled, right? We can forget that he gambled on his own team. Like, what are you talking about?
I think that reading between the lines there, and I could barely read, so that's impressive.
This is good. It's good for you.
Like, it seems as though they were like, he served his punishment. He's dead now. Like, we can't hurt him anymore. That's the way I took it.
And that would be a better statement to just say that. I mean, I still wouldn't agree, but like that makes you look like less of a pussy to just make that the statement. Like, hey, he served his time. Right? And Pete Rose did this, and this, right? He's the all-time home run or hit king. You know, he's won a couple World Series, a franchise icon. You want to throw that out there? Fine. I'm not going to agree still, but that's a better reasoning.
And, you know, the president has been involved in this.
Yes. I think that's what's changed here.
I do. I think he's put some pressure on Manfred. And I think, like, you know, Rob Manfred, it's actually kind of like.
For what?
He's not going to get – Manfred knows he probably won't get in. So, but he kind of – it takes the onus
covers
off
his
him.
ass. Yeah. Covers his ass a little bit. He'll stop getting asked about it.
Yeah, he'll stop getting asked about it. And whatever he needs from the president, he'll get. I mean, like, it's
And I wonder, like,
what you think about the guy in office. He's an extremely powerful man.
He sure is. I don't know why he's in on this Pete Rose thing. I don't get it. But this is what I find interesting, because when I saw this news, the first thing I thought was, I don't like it. I think Pete Rose was a piece of shit. I don't think he deserves this, right? I think he did plenty, like, gamble on baseball, statutory stuff, like the crime stuff he was into. Not being an overall great person doesn't help either.
He was a dick about it.
Yes.
No contrition.
Yes.
Like,
so
So
all of that, like, Pete Rose is not a sympathetic figure in my eye. And yet, the second name on that list, Shoeless Joe Jackson, I think we all think differently about, right? Even though we didn't see him play or anything. This was 100 years ago. But for 100 years, it's been, the Joe Jackson story's been a sad one, right? Here was this guy, this dumb, illiterate kid from a farm in South Carolina, couldn't even sign his own name, and he doesn't know what's going on. He's coerced into throwing the World Series, which I believe there actually is some truth to that, even as an adult. Like, I believe there's some truth to that. But then I wonder, Pete, is that how people are going to think of Pete Rose in 100 years? You know, we thought of Joe Jackson. I don't know about you growing up, but me growing up watching 8 Men Out, reading the book, and being around a lot of big time baseball fans, like, it was a sad story. This was a guy who should have been a Hall of Famer. He was one of the best players of his era. Very nice guy, you know, good for the sport, and he kind of gets thrown in this whirlwind of throwing the World Series, doesn't know any better. Is that how people are going to think about Pete Rose later on? Look at all the great things he did for the game.
Jackson a lot of grace, dude.
I am. I probably am. That's the thing. I'm probably throwing him
betting. Like he threw games, as far as we know, right?
Yeah.
And
he admitted to it, by the way. I mean,
but it's funny, Cam, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the power of like a strong motion picture, right? Like,
yeah,
he was a sympathetic figure in that
DB
movie.
Sweeney, yeah,
DB Sweeney,
and Ray Liotta in Field of Dreams as a right-handed hitting shoeless Joe Jackson plays him as kind of a sympathetic figure. But you're absolutely right. That's what I'm trying to say here. It's like I've grown up feeling sorry for shoeless Joe, but like I don't give a shit what his batting average is in the World Series. At the end of the day, he agreed to throw the World Series. He accepted money to throw the World Series.
It is clear the way that he's treated in the court of public opinion following this, that he was apologetic, right? Like he became a sympathetic figure in his remaining life, like Pete Rose is like when Pete Rose gets a question in Philadelphia from a female reporter about statutory rape and he calls the girl babe and is demeaning to her on the one day that he's invited back to Philly to celebrate with the rest of his teammates, like he finds a way not only to make a major transgression, but also make a day about his team, about him. Like, there's just like an insane component, and just like I've wanted to like Pete Rose so many times in this whole thing. Like when I was a kid, I vilified Bart Giamatti, right? Like because I didn't know any better. I mean, you didn't
even watch Sideways because his son was in it. And
I love.
I remember that.
That is one of my favorite movies. But no, do you know, as a kid growing up, you want to talk about stress, okay? It's August. I perceive it to be August, at least in my memory, of 1989. I got like 15 books I didn't read and all these book reports coming up that I got to figure out a way.
We're also going to be hit with the ruler.
To throw this shit together, right? Pete Rose is actively getting banned from baseball, and the Iran-Contra hearings are taking over like my television set during the summer. Like it was a stressful time for this young, 11, 12-year-old. Yeah. So
Fight the Power, baby. Public Enemy.
Yes.
89, the number. Another summer.
Fear the Black Planet. I mean, it was in the works. All this stuff's happening. No, but it was. I hated what happened to Pete Rose, and I've wanted to see it rectified, and I just, it's not rectified now. It never will be, because when he had the opportunity to really make a change, ask for forgiveness, he never owned it all the way. And unfortunately, I would have to imagine the person who was imprisoned by all that was Pete Rose. I mean, when you have a secret and you're not telling the truth, and it's that big of a secret, and you lie about it every day.
Take it to your grave.
Yeah, it takes a toll on you, I got to imagine. He's probably right next to OJ somewhere.
Probably, yeah. Looking up.
Anyway, trying to figure out the killers.
Yeah, he's still trying to connect the dots there. In a weird way, it's almost like the Bizarro story of the guy who's drowning, and he's like, "God will save me." You remember that story? And all these lifeboats come out, and he says, "No, God will save me." Yeah. And God tells him, "I sent you all these lifeboats." Yeah. That's like it's like the opposite, right? Of like, we want to like Pete Rose. We invite him back after all these years to Philadelphia. This is his chance, and he fucking blows it again. And it's like, I gave you. You saw his career. You saw his post career. What led you to believe that he was going to make the most of this day the way you wanted him to?
And what a complicated guy, because he's such a character. Like there was a lot about him to like. Like up until he died, he continued to speak publicly. He commanded thousands of people to come to see him, speak and then tell stories with some of his former teammates. And then, of course, he also signed autographs for days and made tons of money. Like, people like the outlaw side of Pete Rose, and I did too, to a degree. But when you really get down to it and drink some truth serum, there's no way around it. He screwed up, and he screwed up again and again and again, and it really affected his legacy. He did it to himself all the way around.
And I know we're splitting hairs on it, but all right. And I'm not a big proponent of the steroid guys getting in. I would much rather have them in the Hall of Fame than Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Like, I'm sorry. To me, it's like there's still that element of, you juiced out of your mind, but you still had to hit the ball. Like in this one, you're doctoring the outcome of games. Like it's just, I don't like it at all. Anyway,
I understand the steroids way more than I do the gambling, but that speaks to the addiction part of it. And, Pete never was able to own and take accountability for if that was an addiction for that. He fought that till his death. He said he wasn't addicted to gambling,
Yeah. Pete, I want to keep you around for one more thing, but real quick, guys, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It's totally free, and it helps us get towards the path of 4,000 subscribers. We're talking nothing but Boston sports every day. Check out the other videos on the channel. Find us live on YouTube, high noon Eastern time, and wherever you get your podcasts. Pete, I can't believe you wore that fucking shirt to my show. Are you kidding me with that? Jack Tatum?
Are you talking about Daryl Stingley?
Yes, I'm talking about Daryl Stingley, man.
That is, truthfully, I'm not going to sit here.
This is Pete Rose, by the way. He paralyzes Daryl Stingley, never apologizes for it. Tries to go to the hospital, goes to the hospital with the cameras as if it's going to be this big thing. And Daryl Stingley's like, fuck you, man. Get out of my face with that shit.
I don't even think he got penalized.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Yeah, that was a terrible situation. And trust me, it's made me think twice about this shirt, but the shirt is
at least you thought twice about it.
Yeah, but look, Jack Tatum was the assassin. He did not mean to paralyze. He did not mean to paralyze Daryl Stingley. He did not. He wanted to deliver.
His name's the assassin, Pete. Name's the assassin.
It's funny. I mean, James Harrison, right? We all adored him. If he'd paralyzed somebody, how would you feel about him?
Rodney Harrison?
James Harrison.
Yeah, Rodney, safety,
Rodney too.
Hard hitter.
Yeah.
Some would say dirty. I would say intense.
Chuck Cecil. I mean, guys like that. Like everybody. Look, it was one of the things that made the Raiders' mystique so, to me, so attractive is like those guys were fucking straight outlaws. I'm not sitting here talking about them being choir boys, all right? This isn't an integrity contest, all right? But yeah, this is an awesome shirt, and I can't wait for that. I do feel terrible about Daryl Stingley, obviously. I remember watching, there was a 20-year anniversary of Monday Night Football, again, showing my age, and I watched the special, and in the special, because that was during a Monday night preseason game, which was a Monday Night Football game. And it was like they chronicled the whole thing, and your heart broke for Daryl Stingley. And ultimately, he died,
Yep, prematurely.
Yeah.
I've got one more thing I got to show you. I got one more thing. I just remembered it, and I am uploading it now, so it's going to take a second. But speaking of this Raiders thing and Jack Tatum, and I know we talk a lot of media, I'm curious if you've seen this picture yet.
Oh, I saw it, dude. And let me tell you something. I think
Pete is going to love this no matter what, by the way.
I overreacted to it on my own show. Like, I have the fact that 2 Oscar winners, okay? 2 Oscar winners.
Yeah, it's Christian Bale and Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. I mean, so all I hope for is, after seeing this picture and getting a chance to think about it a little bit, is that Nick Cage doesn't overdo it and try to cook it up too much for Madden, and that Christian Bale has a primary role in this, and he's not just like a character in a huge story about John Madden.
I mean, I feel like he's got to be. I feel like at least kind of like the Branch Rickey in 42, like that kind of role in a movie. By the way, I thought for sure when I first saw this picture, I thought sure as I am alive and breathing right now, that was Dennis Quaid playing Al Davis.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call. Yeah.
And like Nick Cage, man, I mean,
I think you were thinking way too much about our conversation with Jerry Lee Lewis and Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah, I think that was it, man. Yeah. I got to watch that again when I'm taking an edible.
I can't wait for that to come out. And it's a movie, too. I got that wrong on my show. I thought it was a series. It's an Amazon movie. So I can't wait. You know what that reminds me of, though? And this was a bit of a letdown. I recently watched this. In 2000, and I think it was maybe, I guess in 2015 or 16, pictures started to circulate of Joe Paterno as, Al Pacino as Joe Paterno. And that was like, holy mackerel. And that was actually really well done. I think that kind of got shit on. Maybe
I shit on it. I don't really remember it now, but I remember not liking it.
It's on ESPN. You can watch it. It's actually pretty good. Yeah.
It reminds me of, I've talked about it on the show, kind of last thing here. I've talked about it with Zach a few times. Do you remember when ESPN started doing movies in like the early 2000s,
dude, there was a
late
Pete
90s?
Rose movie in which Tom Sizemore portrayed Pete Rose.
Yes.
And it's almost impossible to find it, dude.
Yeah, there's a couple of those on YouTube. The Junction Boys one, which is Tom Berenger as Bear Bryant. Season on the Brink, which was probably the worst one that I saw, with Brian Dennehy as Bobby Knight, which doesn't add up at all. At all. It's not.
Simmons has a great story. Bill Simmons went to interview Dennehy in like Ottawa ahead of that for Page 2.
Yes, because they did film it in Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, and another one. You know what was really good, and there's a huge Red Sox thread to this, is The Bronx is Burning. That was really
the series. That was the series. Yeah.
Yes, and it was John Turturro as Billy Martin,
Oliver Platt as George Steinbrenner. I don't remember the guy who played Jackson, but yes, I remember. I was a kid. I was 10 when that came out, and I remember it because it was that was Roots for me.
Yeah.
Mini series that I actually tuned into. Like I think it was every Monday or Tuesday night. It would be after the baseball game on ESPN. Yeah. It was the summer, so I could stay up and watch it, and I was hooked on it. I loved it, man. I don't remember if it was any good, but actually,
I remember it as very good. But
yeah, John Turturro as Billy Martin.
I was on a lot of drugs at the time.
That was really good. Yeah, it was like an 8 or 9 part series or whatever it was. Thurman Munson. It was good stuff. Anyway, Pete, this has been good stuff. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Yeah. I might just start putting you on here more often. It's less stuff for me to think about.
Hey, honestly, that's fine. As long maybe a little earlier, segment 1 or segment 2. So
you can get out of here. You can get your lunch meetings. You got lunch meetings.
I go to AA at lunch sometimes, Cam. So there you go.
See, this is what Pete Rose should have done. Played the sympathy.
He should have
played the addiction card.
But it's really hard. It's really hard. It is really hard to actually get there. I mean, maybe
he never did. He never did, man.
Maybe he was an insane gambling addict that never got sober. Maybe he's a sick guy. Maybe we should look at him that way. But it's difficult to when he never admitted that he was sick himself.
Anyway, we're way over time. Pete Souza. Pete Souza Show comes on before us. That's 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live on YouTube. Then that hops right into the Cam Show, live on YouTube every weekday, high noon Eastern Time. And then wherever you get your podcasts, we will see you tomorrow on another special edition of the Cam Show.
Transform your workspace with Hanomi Ergonomics. From adjustable chairs to standing desks, we provide solutions for comfort and productivity, whether at home or in the office. Improve your posture, reduce strain, and work smarter. Visit us at hanomi.co today. That's HINOMI.co today. Experience the future of secure private cloud storage with Internex. Protect your files with end-to-end encryption, ensuring your data stays private and accessible only to you. Enjoy seamless, fast storage without compromising security. Visit Internex.com today and take control of your digital life. That's INTERNXT.com today. Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com. We understand that maintaining a healthy lifestyle can be challenging, especially in today's fast-paced world. That's why our mission is to make fitness accessible to everyone, anywhere. Committed to excellence, we adopt a user-centric approach guided by ergonomics and medical science. With a team of seasoned professionals in R&D, design, and manufacturing, we prioritize quality across our entire product line. Visit TwoSains.com today and start your journey to better health. That's TOUSAINS.com.